Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about extrusions. So, extrusions are good for building frames that can hold things inside. So, you can see here are some examples. You'll see a lot of frames that's usually like rectangular. Maybe it's like for robot arms inside, or you have machines inside, or you could be like a tabletop like this. And usually they're held together with these T-slot nuts. So these nuts will slide inside, and then you'll put brackets to hold them together. So there's a lot of different configurations you can do to hold them together. You could see here that based on the size you get and also how strong you want your support to be, you'll have different options. So in terms of the profile, you could see there's a lot of different profiles. So some of these profiles might depend on like which side you need to have access to with the nuts. So like you can see some parts are closed off, so you might not be able to mount on one side. Like this one here is closed off, so you can only mount on the part that's open. Or like this one right here is a low profile one, so maybe you could just only care about mounting on one side, then you could choose something like that. So a lot of the geometry is based on like which one you want. Obviously the most versatile is the 4-slot one because you can mount anywhere you want. So here you can see some examples. You could, if you click on one, you could see you could choose by the width. You have a center hole diameter if you need to mount anything in the center. And then you could choose by length. Sometimes you could just buy a really long one and then trim it to length. There's also like these extra big ones, the quad or double quad, if you need the extra size. Okay, so in terms of the support, you have different structural brackets. So you can see you have like tiny ones, you have a little bit longer L brackets, you have these triangular ones, larger triangular ones. So sometimes these triangles, you'll see the name gusset, so that's what they'll call it. And then they have these quick install ones, which have like the nuts already attached. So it makes it a little bit easier. So for the sake of this assembly that we're going to do, we're going to look at some of these quick ones. So if you look at product detail, you see that this one has these corners on here. So the corner bracket, if we download this, you could take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and download. And I'm going to put it in my extrusions folder. Hit save. Open it up. Probably should hit no, but yeah, so you can see here, this is an example of the, the corner mount. So let's just make a box. So let's go get some extrusions. So come here, and then let's to make a note of the ones we chose earlier. So if we let's go back to this, and we can see the one we were looking at was this one here. Okay, so this one is for a rail height of 1.5 inch. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're using the same size. So this one is like slightly, the size of this is 1.5. You can see it's 1.575. But when we're sizing the extrusion, you could choose something that's close to it, which is 1.5. So we could go ahead and choose this, and let's make a box that's maybe a foot in diameter, or not diameter, foot in width. So let's go ahead and download this one. And you see there's like silver anodized one, black anodized one. You can see a black one's more expensive. It's usually better quality, but for general purposes, you could go ahead and use the silver one. And they're actually surprisingly strong. I was able to do some pull-ups on it, so it can definitely hold your weight. So okay, so let's download this. I'm gonna hit save. Gonna open this up. So you can see this is our extrusion. Okay, so let's go ahead and make an assembly. So we're gonna pin this and we will drop in. We'll add more later, but let's just add one here and then maybe another one on top. So we'll just kind of form a box. One up here and then down here. Okay. And maybe some vertical ones. Let's just start mating them before it gets too messy. But so we're gonna go ahead and mate this to this, mate this to this. Okay, and then we want this face to go with that face. And then we want this face to go with this face. And this top face to go with this top face. Okay. And it's actually easier if I just control drag this. That way I don't have to reorient it. But let me just mate this over here. Okay. And then we'll mate this one to this face. And the other one's going to be constrained by default. Let me actually just delete this. I'm going to add it in later. It's just too crowded right now. Okay. And then for this component here, you can see this is the first item I dropped in, so it's fixed. So I'm going to float it. And right now I'm just going to fix this. So for this, you could go ahead and like mount this to a corner. You could flip the mates here. And then you might have this other face here. That face could mount to this face. And then you could flip it once more. Okay, so it'll look something like this. And you can see is if you measure this, go evaluate and then click one of this face, measure, and then go on this side. You can see it's 1.5. And if you measure this just to double check, and you measure that face, you can see it's 1.512. So technically you want to center them. So if you look at this, I think for the sake of simplicity, we could just mate one of that top face to the inner top face of this guy. Or it doesn't like it. Let's see. You could do, I think because it might not be parallel. Let me try one more time. Yeah, I think because it's slightly angled. In that case, it might be easier to just choose an edge. Or, so the correct way actually, because if you look at this from this view, you see it's, or you can't really see it like this. Yeah. So we're just gonna go ahead and mate it in with the line, but the idea when you insert it though is you want to rotate this piece so that it's along this line, slide it in, and then you can rotate it so that um, it's gonna actually be part of the what was I gonna say? Yeah, so you want to rotate it so that it gets locked inside the extrusion profile. Okay, it's not liking the mate right now. But let's do extrude or section cut so you can see a little bit better. So if we cut over here and then we do a normal view, you can see this kind of how it will fit. So it'll fit somewhere like right in between. Obviously, this will be loosened a little bit so that this part could go in, but when you download this part, it's actually a single part, so you can't adjust it. Okay, so might be easier to see if there's a plane in here that we could use. Yeah, so this right plane might be easier to mate. So let's see if there's a corresponding. Yeah, so you could use the top plane and the right plane and mate the two planes together. That'll be easier. Okay. So you'll repeat you'll repeat this at every corner, but I'm just gonna show one for the sake of um just make it easier because I don't want to do all of it. So right now I just copy paste this and I could make that to this end here, make it coincident, and then I could make this side to this end. Okay, so we have a box forming. I'm just going to drag this piece. And then for here, I could mate it to the top, mate it to this face, get one of this face to that face, and then this face to the other face. Okay, and then likewise for the bottom, I want to mate it to that face, then the bottom face to this top face. And this is now fixed. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat a few more. Okay, made it to this, made it to that, and then this one will mate to the top. Then we got two more to go, so I'm gonna control drag this, control drag that, mate the top faces. Okay, and then the last one. Made it to that face, and then this face to the top. Okay, so that's how you would do it. And let's just show for the full corner, right? If you want to do one whole corner, you want to make sure you have one of these in each corner. So you could mate this to this end, and then make sure this face is mounted to that end. And again, when you actually assemble these, you need to be careful about your order of operations, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to get these in. Or actually, I think for these, you could rotate it and just drop them in. Okay, and then you could mate it correctly accordingly, but this is how it would look for one corner. Okay, so that's the idea of putting extrusion together. So you could repeat this for all three corners, and then you should have a pretty solid structure. So let's take a look again at this cut view that we had. So if you do normal to and look at it, you can see this size here, right? If I do a quick sketch and then look at the opening, you see that from here to here, it's the length of this is 0.32. Okay, so if I exit the sketch and take a look at this part, if I look at this part and then if I measure this, so that's the distance is 0.302. So yeah, you could actually rotate this and then it should be able to slip in. So that's what makes it easier to assemble. You don't have to, it's not like the other, if you look at these T-slot nuts. So these T-slot nuts, I guess these you can also rotate it, but there's some that if you have like those two pieces that are like locked in place, and that would be harder. But yeah, typically for these, you could rotate it and then slide it in, or you could, if it's already in the locked position, you would just have to slide it in and then put it in place before you lock it down. Okay, so that's how you would put together extrusion in SolidWorks. And if you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.